The 1911 pistol is still relevant today, over a century after its introduction. And although it's gone through some generational changes, at its heart, it's still the same gun. Today, we're going to compare 3 different generations of 1911s from kind of where it started to where it is today. And we're just going to see what we love about the pistol, what those differences are, and what the similarities still are. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical and another 1911 video, but also a 2011 video. This is kind of about how the 1911 has stayed relevant after over an entire century and just the evolution of what it came from and where it is now, and why John Moses Browning design from 1911 here in 2024 is still like the best shooting pistol that you can get. If you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed, and let's talk 1911s. We're starting the video off with a 1970s era Colt Commander model. Now this, I don't have a 1911 from 1911, but this is the earliest one that I have, and it's very close in features and form factor to that original GI 1911. This guy, not Samuel Colt, but John Moses Browning, got it right. The design that he came up with was absolutely genius. It's amazing to me that this basic design, and this isn't a pistol from the year 1911, this is from 1970. This is a Colt Commander from 1970. And the internals, the basic design of this and a modern 2011 are very, very similar. Pretty much the same as far as the way that the gun operates, the way that the trigger works, the sear, the hammer, the disconnector, the way the barrel lockup works. It's all the same. And he came up with just this design, like I said, over a century ago. And so I kind of want to talk about the evolution of it because it has stayed relevant after all these years, in part due to the incredible design that he came up with, the genius of John Moses Browning, but also in part to, how the pistol has evolved and modernized over time to become what is widely considered now still the most shootable pistols you can get, which is basically a 2011, a double stack 1911. And there are some major changes there, but at heart, it is still this same pistol. So this is a 1970s era Colt Commander. This one is chambered in 9mm, which is probably the one major departure from the original 45 ACP chambering that the 1911 came in. And while this Colt is very similar to the original GI 1911, the biggest difference is that this one's chambered in 9mm rather than 45 ACP, which is what the 1911 was originally chambered in. Now, most of the major components being pretty much the same with modern 1911s, let's see what the original design kind of had going for it and what's changed a little bit. So you see in the earlier 1911s, the sights were very minimal, although very usable. But you will see in this video that at similar ranges, I do shoot these two pistols better than I shot this one. And that might have something to do with the sights. It might have just had to do with that this was the first gun that I shot at the range today. You also don't get that big beaver tail that you see on modern 1911s. You don't get a memory bump on your grip safety here. You don't get an extended safety on your actual thumb safety. It's a pretty minimal thing, but totally usable. You get wood grips on most of the early models, as well as a very short trigger or length of pull on the trigger. These guns were mass produced, and they were the first gun to use the concept of a drop-in part, where you could take a bunch of 1911s from different manufacturers even, take all of them apart, dump the parts in a bucket, and build a bunch of new pistols out of parts from each and every one, and they were meant to, function perfectly reliably. And they did. Funny thing about that is, with modern pistols, Glocks and stuff, all drop-in parts like that, but like modern high-end 1911s, 2011s are more hand-fitted guns, not quite so much drop-in as the original 1911 was designed to be. But some of the things that they really got right with this gun, John Moses Browning, the way the barrel lockup works and the action was a design that really almost all modern pistols have used since then. It's a very good design. And 1911s, they're pretty much known as having the best triggers in the pistol game. And even this really old one, although the trigger is heavier than like my 2011 there, it's about the same weight as my newer 1911 that we're going to talk about in a second. Extremely crisp break. Positive reset. It's a fantastic trigger. And this is a 1970s model. Here we've got my much more modern Springfield Ronin. This is a 5-inch government model. This one's also chambered in 9mm, like a lot of modern 1911s, and it's got a lot more modern tactical features that shooters today are looking for. As the 1911 matured and modern shooters required modern features, it was upgraded. I believe Wilson Combat, Bill Wilson, was one of the first to really start taking 1911s and making them what they are today with, this memory bump so that no matter what, you always engage that grip safety. With a nice big beaver tail here so that you don't get any slide bite from that reciprocating slide. Besides that, you get front slide serrations on most modern 1911s these days, which that way you can do your cool guy press checks. Much, much better sights. The sights on this gun are way better than they are on this old Colt. And you can see that in my shooting in today's video. I shot this gun a lot more accurately. Internally, very similar to that Colt. Externally, we have extended safeties, a bigger beaver tail, a memory bump, and much, much better sights. You also get things like skeletonized triggers and a skeletonized combat hammer. This style of trigger has a longer length of pull than those early 1911s did, but the exact same very short take up, extremely crisp break, positive reset. The 1911 trigger is the best pistol trigger that you can get. They're fantastic. And it's one of the main reasons that 1911s have stood the test of time. That, and like I said with that Colt, the barrel lockup, these are just extremely easy guns to shoot accurately. A trigger makes a big difference. If your trigger is heavy, if it has a long pull and it's squishy, there's more of a likelihood that you're going to pull your shot off target while pulling through that trigger pull. If it's light and crisp, it's easier to shoot the gun faster and more accurately. And I'll attest to that. I shoot my 1911s generally better than I shoot my polymer frame striker fired pistols. Chambered in 9mm is an absolute joy to shoot. The big steel pistol handles the recoil of 9mm extremely well. Some things that had to be modernized just to make the gun more reliable. You get a lowered and flared ejection port on newer 1911s, and you will maybe remember from the very first shooting clip in this video, I did actually have a little bit of a jam with this gun. This gun, although it did require a major break-in period when I bought it a couple years ago, is extremely reliable now. I don't have any issues with ejection, extraction, feeding, anything like that. But it did require some polishing and a bit of a break-in period. 1911s can be like that. But your slide to frame fit, this thing does not move literally at all. It's as tight as any gun I've ever felt. And this is a production gun. Now this is a nice production gun. It's a Springfield Ronin 5-inch, and it's chambered in 9mm. Now this gun did originally come with wooden grips like that Colt did there. But another thing that we have these days, just modern upgraded features, are things like these LOK Grips, G10 grips, that really just hold the gun in your hand better. We get things like 20 lines per inch checkering on the front strap, back strap, so that you can get a better hold on your gun. Although with a 1911 chambered 9mm like this one, it's a pretty easy gun to hold on to. The 1911 being an all steel gun, at least in this case. Some modern ones come with aluminum frames. They just handle recoil really well, whether 45 ACP or especially in 9mm. It's just an easy gun to shoot fast and accurate. And here we have the logical evolution of the 1911 platform, the 2011. This, of course, you can mount an optic, a light, and double stack magazines, making it a very, very useful pistol. Now the one major downside to the 1911 design is going to be the capacity. It is a single stack gun. So in 45 ACP, you get 7 or maybe 8 rounds in the magazine. In 9mm like this one, you get 9 or 10 rounds. I have a bunch of Wilson Combat 10 round magazines for it. But 10 rounds of capacity does not compete with modern pistols like this M&P with 17 rounds in it, in a pistol that's similar in size. In fact, this is technically bigger. So the logical outgrowth of that, the logical evolution, of course, is the 2011. And while this is not a Staccato 2011, that's trademarked, this is a Springfield Prodigy 1911 DS. DS for double stack. And this takes double stack magazines. This is a 20 round magazine. It also comes with a 17 round magazine, and you can get 26 round magazines for it. My biggest gripe with the 1911 platform has always been the capacity, being that it takes single stack magazines. So with the 2011 and 20 round magazines, basically takes care of the only real issue with the 1911. The 2011 platform is basically the perfect melding of the 1911 and everything we love about that. It's got that same just amazing trigger, although most 2011's even better. This one breaks at 2.4 pounds. It is as good as a trigger gets, although mine has been tuned. I sent this off to Skip's Guns. It's got the EGW ignition kit. It's got an Atlas trigger, an 8-pound recoil spring. It just feels like the slide is on ball bearings. It's tuned, and you can tell when you shoot it. I could shoot this pistol much faster than any of my other handguns and still be just as accurate while being a lot faster. And again, that's due to a lot of things. It's due partly to this trigger being so short, so crisp, so light, and the fact that, it's kind of a big, heavy gun. Shooting 9mm, it just handles the recoil extremely well. If this one handled 9mm that well, this one handles it that much better even. And then you get the upgraded modern features. So 2011 is a 3-part pistol, basically. Instead of just a slide and a frame, you get a slide, a frame, and a polymer grip module. Now there are, of course, aluminum, steel even grip modules for 2011s, but this one's a polymer grip module. And what you get with that is, again, that ability to accept double stack magazines. But you also get all these other things like a rail so that you can add a light to your gun. You know, a modern pistol, a modern fighting pistol needs to have a light so that you can positively identify your targets. And my favorite part about it is the ability to add a red dot optic. Iron sights are great, and I shoot iron sights just fine, but adding an optic makes it just that much better. You can see in this video, as I'm shooting, I'm literally just pulling the trigger every time that dot falls back on my target. And with the minimal recoil of this gun, I never lose the dot in my optic. And every time it falls back on that target, I can confidently squeeze that trigger again, basically as fast as the gun can recoil and come back to zero, and know that I'm going to be accurate and that I'm going to hit my target every time. And it just looks damn sexy. But other than that, it's the same gun as this Colt. It really is. The same trigger mechanism, the same barrel lockup, the same, you know, we don't use a bushing anymore. We have a bull barrel, but it's just the modern evolution of this same design, this same platform. And it's amazing to me that after over 100 years, that this design is still pretty much the best pistol that you can get. Speed and accuracy, baby. It is amazing to me that a pistol designed from over a century ago is about the most shootable pistol that you can get in this modern age. I've done a lot of videos about 1911s, 2011s. Obviously, I love the 1911. I always have, even before I got into guns. I just thought that this is what a pistol should look like. It's classic, but it's also modern now. And it shoots really, really good. Let me know if you agree with me down in the comments. But, I mean, there's obviously something there for a design from the year 1911 to now in 2024 still be considered the fastest, most accurate, most shootable handgun platform that you can get. I think that that is a pretty amazing thing. It just shows the genius in John Moses Browning. And, you know, he's designed a lot of other things too, but I really, really appreciate the design of the 1911. There's a reason that since I started getting into guns, I've always had at least one 1911. My dad carried a 1911. That was his. Got it in 1972. My bedside gun, the gun that I feel the most confident with, is this Springfield Prodigy. It's just a tuned up, you know, 2011, and it's freaking awesome. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed. Give me a like. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.